Let's have some fun.
Yeah. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Simulation. Today, we are featuring Joe Lopardo. Yeah. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Nice seeing you.
Thank
you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Blockchain, cryptocurrencies, this new era.
Yeah. Crazy times.
Crazy times. And it's so interesting how in Silicon Valley, it's like the thing, but then if you go to like Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where I'm from, then it is no longer that big of a thing.
Is that upside down?
It is. Should be better now.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, cool. It's gonna flip, but hopefully not too much.
It should be fine.
All right. So isn't that interesting though? How we go from people knowing about this technology and like being so immersed in it to people that don't know about it, and then there's places in the world that are still on their survival. It's just that this whole technology thing is just, I could talk about it for so long. So let's go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, like everything, there's always bubbles everywhere, right? So here in San Francisco, where obviously it's everywhere. It's like everyone's living and breathing. To a certain extent, though, it all depends on the inner circles you're in. Also, like, South Korea, Singapore, some of these other markets where Russia, I mean, a tremendous amount. And also, it comes from an adoption standpoint, too, where you have, I think there's certain like Russian airlines actually adopting the acceptance of cryptocurrency and stuff like that. So it's really siloed, but not just by country, by like different segments of the country. As you mentioned, SF, and we could talk about it later, SVBS. I mean, there's different chapters being opened in too. So it's sort of crazy.
Yeah, you just pulled up a good point, which is even across other nations, it's siloed into those bubbles in like Moscow versus Siberia.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so for those that don't know, Joe is the co-founder of DAV Foundation, which is a blockchain-based transportation company. Joe is also co-founder of, or founding member of Silicon Valley Blockchain Society, co-founder of Matrix Mining. So we have a good amount to talk about. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, it'll be good.
So how did you initially even come up with this realization that you were like, okay, I got to get into blockchain and cryptocurrency?
So that 2.5, 3 years ago, I attended a TEDx in San Francisco, which was fantastic, and there was a talk on blockchain. And unfortunately, at the time, I didn't pay much attention to it. I was sort of confused, and I was like, I just didn't take the time to really grasp the technology, which I feel like a lot of people do. And then about a year later, so I've been in it for about 1.5 years, 2 years now. My buddy was like, dude, you got to check out Ethereum, from an investment standpoint.
Yeah.
So I started to dabble a little bit in investing, nothing too crazy, but just getting my feet wet. And that was, a little bit earlier before things started to like slingshot, where then it sort of hit the mass media. So that was sort of my initial, dovetail into cryptocurrency and blockchain as a whole. And then from there, one thing led to another, where the business I was currently working on, we pivoted that with the partners I was with into sort of like a mining operation, which I never would have thought that would happen. I was still doing some investing. And then eventually, through the trying to get funding for the mining operation, I wound up running across the CEO of DAV, Noam Kopel, and we sort of met on actually LinkedIn, and he was a really good, genuine person. We sort of hit it off, and one thing led to another. He was just getting started with DAV, and here we are today. It was crazy. It was
2.5 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've actually been in the blockchain space now, maybe for about 1.5 years. I feel like there's like a 6-month learning curve for everybody. People are like, I have no idea what's going on with it. But then anybody who spends maybe 6 months in it, you're at least entrenched enough to understand, because it's such a new industry as well. Yeah, it's been around for years, but we're still very, very early adopters at its core.
Yeah. That seems to be the reoccurring theme with people, is that they get in and then there's this learning curve, just with almost everything, but especially with blockchain, there's people that understand the technical aspect of it super duper well. Mm-hmm. There's people that are talking about the geopolitical side of things as well. It's very interesting how, and I guess that seems to be the same thing with the way that you might look at like neuroscience, like the way that you either map the brain really well, the technical aspects, or what applications does this have for the real world.
Yeah,
it seems to be that same thing's going on in blockchain.
Yeah, and for me, it's more of an app. I understand technology. I'm not a technologist, I would say. I'm not going to be a developer coding and things like that, but I understand the applications, and even just speaking with people are so excited. It seems like sort of the dot-com boom all over again, and potentially bigger, the way everyone's making it out to seem. So it's going to also have a lot of awesome social impact as well. So there's a lot of different things that we sort of dive into.
All right, let's do it. So let's start off with, okay, so as you initially get involved in it, you have people around you that are talking about mining, and then you guys decide to start a mining operation yourselves.
Yeah, my one partner in the company essentially had a data center, and then we took that data center and just retrofitted it for a mining operation. So I was
Okay.
building out that mining operation.
Okay, and so then how does one go about that process?
The two biggest barriers to entry are access to electricity, cheap electricity, and access to hardware. So as long as you have those two things locked down, you're going to be able to do it. The biggest thing with hardware is everyone's trying to do this, so the supply is very limited. So it's very difficult to actually find the OEMs that can go ahead and sell you the quantity you need to actually make a business out of this.
Of like graphics processing
Yeah,
units?
exactly.
Or GPUs?
GPUs, motherboards, but primarily GPUs are the things that don't, aren't plentiful in supply right now.
And then also cheap electricity.
Yeah, cheap electricity as well. So that's why you have a lot of these mining operations in places like Iceland or even Washington State, and then also where it's cold, right? Because the big thing is heat control, being able to go ahead and control the heat and get the cold air in when needed, get that warm air out, a lot of different ways there.
And you guys put a base in the southeast of the U.S.?
Yeah, in the southeast over there, because that happened to be where my one partner had his operation, had his data center.
It's a little hot down there.
A little hot, but we were able to manage the airflow.
Manage it?
Yeah.
So then how do you decide, once you get the computers rolling and starting to mine, try and solve these math problems for the blockchains, how do you pick which blockchains you're trying to solve the math problem for and earn those coins?
We were picking pretty much based off like profitability. So essentially we were mining and still are mining Ethereum. So that was, and we could pretty much mine other spin-offs of Ethereum as well, but we decided on Ethereum, and then we can make adjustments based off of different profitability levels as volatility swings and things like that, and also based off increased hash rate, how difficult it is to actually mine these things. There's a lot of different variables.
Yeah.
And it's different from a GPU versus an ASIC when it comes to actually mining Bitcoin as opposed to something like an Ethereum or another altcoin like that.
So as the hash number increases, the more difficult the math is?
So like one GPU is going to be able to do a certain amount of hashes, right? And then over time, the hash rate increases because you have more miners coming onto the system.
So it becomes more difficult.
It becomes more difficult. So essentially, your profits are declining over time unless you're constantly upgrading or adding new GPUs and things like that.
Okay, so then you picked Ethereum because you thought that Ethereum was the best return for your electricity that you were inputting.
And you could switch at any time.
Yeah.
So you can point at really the hardware. We're focusing on Ethereum, but then you're able to switch at any point in time and say, okay, as long as this one is going to work with the GPUs we've purchased, then I can go ahead and switch off these different altcoins as well.
And right now the idea is try and put in as much as little electricity as possible for as much return as possible seems to be what people are trying to do.
You want to try and find a place that's going to have a low energy cost, essentially.
Low energy cost, max returns. Now, why can't the hash? Why can you, as you're making the call for the Ethereum blockchain that you're trying to figure out what the math is there, can you also apply that same process to like Ripple's blockchain? Can you do that across blockchains? Can you try and solve the math problems across?
That's a good question. Across blockchains, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I know that other ones that are running on the Ethereum blockchain, we are able to, other certain ones on there.
Okay.
Across chains, I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not so much of the technical guy.
Yeah.
I'm more like the BD marketer, get shit done type guy.
Yeah, but you're still doing a good job at keeping up, and it requires that as well on the BD and marketing side of things to still have that foundational knowledge, which you have. So maybe we'll dive into technical stuff, the bare level technical stuff along the way, but we'll have a different, also a different. We haven't even done a blockchain crypto show yet with a super technical person. We'll have to do that. Maybe you can hook it up.
Yeah.
So, okay, now that mining operation's been going on for about a year.
It's been going on for
Year and a half.
maybe about maybe 10 months to a year now. Maybe 10 months to a year.
Okay, and then the partner that you started DAV Foundation with, you met him on LinkedIn. You linked up. You thought it was a good.
Yeah. So pretty much a lot of my energy shifted from the mining operation over to DAV. I met Noam essentially on LinkedIn.
Noam.
Yeah, no. I met him on LinkedIn, and he was interested in hearing my background because my background is also on like brand marketing, content marketing. So he's picking my brain, and then I just have like a pay it forward mentality. So let me see if I could find you some freelancers. Let me give you some feedback on the white paper. Let me give you some feedback on the website, which wasn't yet live at the time. And then we did like a video chat. Then he wound up being in San Francisco for an event a few weeks later, I believe, and we met and sort of clicked. And you know when you can tell someone's a good person, right? And then he asked me to come on board. So that's sort of we were rolling from there.
Okay, so let's touch on the DAV Foundation. So then, when you came on board, what was the thing that drew you to the blockchain-based transportation?
So I thought it was a really interesting idea. And hearing Noam speak about it very passionately was really interesting. What really got me totally hooked was one of the big things I do is in the Bay Area, go out and build relationships with soon-to-be advisors. So we've brought on like the former Cto of General Motors, executives from SAP, from Ford, from UPS. So I was going out, like a stellar team.
Yeah.
So I was going out and I was meeting those people, and these people who have been in the industry for 10, 20, 30 years were super excited about the idea. And the idea of sort of like a decentralized model, and then the future being in the future having it be more autonomous as well. People were extremely excited about it, so that got me really jabbed up about it and being like, wow, this is something really interesting. So initially it was just the overall interaction, and then digging into the white paper and everything like that. But then the more I spoke to people that were industry experts, the more I realized like, wow, this is going to be a tremendous impact.
Okay, so you said the CTO of General Motors.
Yes.
And these other minds that are understanding what is going on in transportation. Mm-hmm. Transportation's crazy, actually. It's 90% of all goods are transited by sea to other places in the world. And then once it usually gets to the ports, then it goes on trucks to the different areas. It's just so mind-blowing how we move goods across the world. So, and then this also applies to people, how you move people across the world in their taxis and Ubers and Lyfts. And so, okay, so now what is DAV Foundation's main vibe? Like, what do you got?
So what we're focused on is building the underlying sort of transportation infrastructure, a protocol that connects vehicles, robotics, drones, users, service providers. Today, what that looks like is a decentralized model. So taking the middleman, taking these corporations out of the picture and having it be more peer-to-peer. Mm-hmm. And then in the future, once the adoption takes place, more of an autonomous model, right? So we're not quite there from an autonomy standpoint for ships and for cars. We are in little test areas, but not on a larger scale.
Mostly trucks right now?
Right now, trucks, there's certain, freight trucks and stuff like that. But from a drone standpoint, we're a lot closer than most people think.
Interesting.
I mean, even on the Uber over here today, I heard that Uber Eats was doing tests, I think in San Diego, on drone delivery for their platform. So from a drone standpoint, and we have partners we have a bunch of different partners in something called the DAV Alliance, which essentially is like different brands that are looking to further transportation, buying into our protocol. So we have a brand in Russia called Copter Express, where now we're working on autonomously having that drone come and pick up a package. Along the way, you can now go ahead and a service station, a charging pad can autonomously bid on that drone, and then it can go ahead and pull off, charge, and then complete the mission. So right now, because of where we are from a society standpoint, right, we're focusing on more of the decentralized marketplace because that's where we are. But autonomy, especially from a drone standpoint, is right around the corner. And we're building the protocol to be able to have that, build the foundation now, but then once AV is ready to go, it's going to fit right into the model.
All right, let's unpack. So we have first in freight. We're in freight right now. And so you are wanting to send me a freight shipment of your new coconut water.
Yeah.
And where normally you're paying a trucking company to take the goods to me, and then you're usually paying them, then they're dropping off with me. There's that whole contractual system. Your protocol makes the third party disappear.
Correct.
And then how would the goods get to me then via freight? How would the coconut water get to me? Where would the middleman percentage be out of that equation? And then how would you or I be able to keep that percentage?
So one of the ways that we're able to do this is because of the Ethereum smart contract, right? You enter into the contract that you want to have this certain package delivered, and once it's delivered, it's then verified on the blockchain, and it's handed over to you essentially.
Yep. But they still get paid. The trucking service still gets paid along the way.
Oh, of course. Well, it's direct, right? As opposed, me, Joe, I want to send you coconut water or whatever it may be. It doesn't go from me to intermediary, then to you.
Yeah.
It goes directly from me to you and riding the blockchain along the way. So if that intermediary was charging a 10, 15, 25% fee on top of it, that's where it comes in. The same goes for ride sharing, right? You have Uber right now charging, I think it's like, let's say 20 or 25% on, from all of their drivers. So if you're able to also, just even in the short term, decentralize ride sharing, you put more money in the driver's pocket, and you also make it a cheaper product for the users as well.
Exactly.
So what we're looking to create and what we're creating is a peer-to-peer system that just connects those people together.
Okay, so now let's say that I'm the freight now, and let's say that you're carrying me from here to San Francisco Airport, right? You're the one that I bid on. Then at that point is who's building, because who would make the app infrastructure? Who would be incentivized to make that app infrastructure if there's no developers getting paid and designers getting paid to make that, if I'm paying you directly through a smart contract and stuff?
There can be. We're focused on building and we're a nonprofit, right? So we're focused on building the underlying infrastructure. We're an infrastructure play, a protocol play, and we want companies to come in and build on top of us. So one example right now is something we've built as an example, something called the Missions app. So that's where I can, order a drone, have that drone come to me, pick up something, and then it will be able to then, deliver it to you, as mentioned before, along the way, be able to stop at a charging station, things like that. So there's of course going to be ways for companies to monetize. It's sort of like, the way the internet was built, right? The internet is built, and then you have all these other domains on top of it, these multi-billion-dollar companies on top of it, that can then take advantage of the underlying protocols that were built from a computer standpoint, from an internet standpoint.
Okay, so then there will be a way for someone to monetize on top of the protocol.
Yes.
But then, so ideally then the 25% fee will just go down to maybe 2% or something like that.
The thing is, here's the thing though. It opens it up to a tremendous amount of more players. So when you only have a few major players in the game, like a Lyft and an Uber, it's very difficult. But we're making the application extremely easy for anybody to come on. So if I have 30 cars that are sitting here, I can go ahead and undercut everybody and then drive the entire market price down. So it's all peer-to-peer. I mean, the goal is essentially, right, if I have a drone, or years from now I have a self-driving car, that can become a passive income source for me. I can hook it onto the network, and then all of a sudden, my car can be out delivering people and passengers or goods for the next 7 days. When it needs to be charged, it's notified, it finds a charging station. When it needs to get air in the tire, it goes and gets air in the tire. And then I want to go to Tahoe snowboarding for the weekend. I say, hey, be back at this time.
Yep.
It comes back, but we're essentially allowing vehicles to turn into passive income sources. And then eventually you get in the discussion of vehicles owning other vehicles and computing. So, but yeah, I think the biggest incentive and price deduction, brands can still start, but the barrier to entry is much lower because it's not going to be owned by all of these monster players anymore. You have anybody being able to come to the game and say, hey, I'm going to put my car on the system or my vehicle on the system.
And get directly connected to the person that wants to bid on the car.
Yeah, so people could even create applications that is just sort of like a connection, right? So I can go in and actually, I'm looking for a car, enter that system, and then it would go ahead and connect me to those people, and then people can link into that as well. And that's the protocol we're building, right? The communication, the transaction, the discovery of those vehicles and individuals.
Okay, so you're building the discovery in the communication and the protocol, making the smart contract between
Yes.
the two people. You're building all that out, so that way, as soon as I get onto DAV Foundation, then I already gain access to all of the different things that I can
Yes.
place my money into for a smart contract to do the service that I want. That way, I don't need to, and that way, how does your nonprofit then stay alive?
So we're currently in the process of doing a token sale. So we're raising $38 million for the token sale.
Okay.
It's been going on for a few months now. We've raised just right around $20 million so far.
Great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's been good. This is my first time going through a token sale, so it's been an awesome learning experience.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of work, but it's been really eye-opening and enlightening, and seeing it from this side is really valuable. I think to answer your question, we've obviously done a good job initially. 38 isn't just like, oh, this is the number we want to go for. This is like what we think is a good number, and then over time, there's different strategic partners that we could always bring into the play and things like that to help support the overall runway or whatever it may be to actually make sure that we're in it for the long term. And because we're also building that out, we could obviously, if we needed to, build off ancillary businesses from that. But this core foundation is a nonprofit.
And the team is a lot of engineers.
A lot of engineers, yeah. We have right around 20 people right now.
Wow.
Yeah, we have a good sized team.
And then they're building out the protocol, they're building out the underlying foundation, and then, all right, let's go into the drone example, because this was really interesting. You brought it up, I wanted to touch on it as we go. Okay, so Uber is testing now this drone delivery in San Diego, and it's difficult because it requires a lot of battery, a lot of charge in order to actually be able to propel not only the drone itself, but then the goods that it's carrying to a distant location. So along the way, there are charge pads, and so as it's flying along its way, it makes a negotiation based on its location with the charge pad, and then it'll transact with the pad itself on charging for 3 minutes for 50% of its battery, and then that whoever owns the charge pad will earn that, and whoever owns the whoever's trying to get the object, the good, to the final location will have to pay for the charge pad. Then that transaction that occurs is facilitated by DAV Foundation, by your underlying protocol, but also is the transit of this good to this final location has now become completely without the use of another party besides the one that's transiting the good and the contracts that it's stopping by to use along the way. Then there's no middleman percentages. It's a direct payment to the charge pad, and it's a direct bring the good to the final location.
Correct. And that's essentially what we're building really right now. Being able to order a drone to take a cup of coffee or a pizza to my girlfriend across the city, right? Along the way, it has to stop maybe once or twice to be charged. It maybe sends out, a sense to the different charging stations, and then the charging stations will go ahead and be able to bid autonomously, if we're talking about the autonomy model, right? And then based off that, it decides, okay, this is of the closest path, and this is sort of the communication protocol playing in, right? And then it would go to there, land in the charging station, charge for as long as it would, and all these transactions are happening in the DAV token, which we've created. So this isn't fiat currency. This is all running through the blockchain, so it's the DAV token, which essentially is a token that we've created in our...
Okay, so this is using the DAV token.
Correct. Which is essentially like a transportation token.
Ah, okay. So then, Domino's is delivering the pizza to the final location. You've placed the order to bring it to your girlfriend. Then you pay Domino's for the pizza, and then Domino's will use the DAV Foundation's token network with the money that you paid them.
Not necessarily. So more so like...
How would it look?
Even right now, we have like, let's say 16,000 community members, right? We've built a community of 16,000 people and rapidly growing. So they're able to, a good amount of them are going to want to, contribute to our token sale and then receive DAV tokens for that contribution, and then they can take those tokens and utilize those tokens for things like delivering of goods or charging of drones, or systems that pop up from a decentralized vehicle standpoint. So it's more so the actual end user who's actually utilizing the system being able to take that token and then purchase those goods or services with it.
Okay, so then Domino's will have purchased like 100,000 DAV tokens from you, and then now they have a collection of these tokens that then they use maybe 6 of your tokens to deliver the pizza from where you purchased it to your girlfriend.
Sure. If Domino's, not to interrupt, if Domino's wants to use the DAV protocol to, let's say, they say, okay, listen, this is fantastic. We want to do all of our deliveries using DAV. Then they're essentially doing that using our token. They're paying for everything using our token.
Yeah. Okay, and then the hardware of the drone itself is owned by someone else and manufactured by someone else.
Yeah, we're not, and we have and are building partnerships with these manufacturers, whether they be drone companies. We form the DAV Alliance because what the DAV Alliance is, it's folks who are looking at the forward-looking, future of transportation and transportation as it is today, but it's also people who are actually building these vehicles, right? Whether they be drones or rovers or cars or trucks, and that's also why we want to bring on, stellar advisors from your likes of, your GMs and your Fords, and we're in conversation with other auto manufacturers as well to actually deliver or build those vehicles, which we could then integrate a protocol into.
Okay, so then let's continue on the pizza example. Then
Got pizza on your mind?
yeah, that was a good example. Okay, you're delivering whatever Italian food, Chinese food, whatever's being delivered to this girlfriend to your final location, to Joe's girlfriend, who just kidding. So, or multiple girlfriends, or boyfriends. We're very open here.
San Francisco.
Stop that talk.
San Francisco.
So now we're delivering the goods to the final location. Okay, now there is an intermediary. The intermediary is the transportation, but they're not, they're contracted by, either they have the drone or the autonomous vehicle or whatever's transporting the pizza to the final location has your protocol either built into it, or they're using your protocol to take an agreement from Domino's. Mm-hmm. And then that's one smart contract, just to take the pizza from Domino's. Yeah. And then that autonomous drone or vehicle will then take the pizza, and then it'll go as far as it can until if it needs a charge or not, or it can go all the way. Mm-hmm. And so we'll either negotiate with a charging location or not. But then this is all using the DAV token.
Mm-hmm, the protocol, yeah.
The protocol, okay. So then again, Domino's would have your tokens. They would pay the hardware company of the drone or the autonomous vehicle an amount of your tokens that they then could exchange for. This is so interesting because what do you do with DAV tokens? Obviously, you can then go and use DAV tokens for other DAV.
Anything transportation. If you think about the older days when you had like sort of like a token to ride a trolley, right? We're in San Francisco. We're creating a transportation token, whether you are riding in a car, or on a bus, or on a train, or in air, wherever it may be. Right, via drone. Yeah, we're looking towards the future as well.
But the only difference between using the fiat currency versus using a DAV token is that it gets put on the ledger.
Yeah, it's the blockchain technology.
It's a blockchain technology.
It's because it's decentralized. The ability for it to not be centralized and have this large decentralized ecosystem, which is trustless, that's where the value in the blockchain comes in.
A large decentralized ecosystem that's trustless, so therefore there's not a middleman that's trying to jack their prices up all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Maybe the autonomous or transit company, if this wasn't blockchain related, if it was just US dollar related, could at any point just throw their pricing up.
Sure. I mean, there's companies right now that are working on autonomous technologies, and that they can essentially then hook their vehicle into the system as well.
I feel like you're getting into this really you're getting your full arms and legs are like soaking in the blockchain water right now, and I'm like, I have like a little fingernail in there trying to figure this out.
It's fun. Yeah, I got totally entrenched in it. It's great, but yeah, not on purpose initially, and then it's sort of that's sort of what happens too, and it doesn't help living in San Francisco where you live and breathe it for sure.
It's so interesting though that how this relates to the current way that we're transiting goods across from A to B, and how blockchain impacts the way that we transit goods from point A to point B. I want a clearer picture of this. Okay, let's try and make a clearer picture of this. When I use US dollars to send a pizza from Domino's to girlfriend, Domino's will either drive it themselves or they'll put the pizza on someone else's back that's already going there, or drone or whatever. And they could pay them US dollar, then there's no digital ledger there. Maybe Visa would take a fee or something if they're transferring digitally, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that could be where the money gets saved, is through a transaction fee between the two people that are transiting the good and the manufacturer of the good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Multiple points, yeah.
Yeah, multiple points of transaction fees. If it has to stop and charge, then it could get a Visa fee or whatever.
And then also, realize outside of just the fee, also, the whole benefit of the blockchain is like, the security. The fact that, it's that transaction, that action is going to always be there. It's verifiable, everyone can see it, it's open to the public. So, a lot of things that we do also being able to tie it back to, insurers, right? So if there's certain vehicles they're driving around and something happens, unfortunately, the insurer can then see exactly what happened along the way. Based off different transactions, do they have a history of these things? Is there any foul play? So there's a lot of players in the game, even more so that, it's very difficult to wrap your head around everything, but there's just so many players in the game constantly, where the blockchain makes everything a lot easier over time, from a transparency standpoint. And I'm just laughing because thinking about transparency, we're overly transparent about everything at DAV. We sort of have this motto where we even do this thing where we do this thing called the Daily DAV, where it's like daily transparency. The issue is, right, because I think a lot of people initially, especially outside of like the areas that we're in, even you go to anywhere, a lot of people in the US, Bitcoin, that's a scam, or something of that sort. So there's always, unfortunately, a lot of bad eggs. Not a lot, but a few, enough to get a bad rap for anything. So we try and deploy the extremely transparent about everything. So we post these daily videos, each individual on the team, about what we're working on.
A daily video?
Yeah.
At dav.network?
Yeah, so essentially, if you were to go to DAV, actually at the bottom of our website, it always repopulates the newest daily DAV.
Cool.
And then we also do, sort of like a YouTube video as well. And just a quick, hey, here's my main focus yesterday, here's my main focus today, which I enjoy because I'm very action-driven and disciplined and stuff like that. So it helps people see what you're working on. And the real community members, which we've built up an awesome following, can see and get to know each personality as well, which is fun.
Okay, I want to ask this question. It's about the ledger itself and how much electricity this uses for the mining operation. So, do we need to know that you sent your girlfriend a pizza at 6 o'clock on Monday? Do we really need to know that? Does it need to be digitally stored forever?
That specifically, it's a good question. That specifically, no, but I think that there are transactions that you could then verify against whether or not these are good actors or bad actors and things like that over the course of time that really play in, especially when it comes to, I want to know if I'm getting a ride from somebody if they've been in 4 accidents before, right? Like things like that that will make a difference and will have an impact on how you perceive things and what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
So I think for those little more fun use cases, sure, but the impact there is broader than that.
Okay, I agree. That's an important one. You want to know the digital ledger of for your safety, for good actors versus bad actors. You want to be able to distinguish between the two.
It's just even for as mentioned before, like insurers and suppliers and things like that. It allows transparency into things, which wasn't otherwise accessible beforehand. And also, it's not all being stored, if we're talking about the blockchain, it's all not being stored on one location. It's not within one bank. All the information isn't right there, where unfortunately someone can press a button or someone can have a bad day and do something that would affect millions of people. I mean, we see a lot of these breaches happening as well when it comes to security. I'm in San Francisco. We have another co-founder, John, who's in Vancouver. We have our head counsel, who actually came over from the Ethereum Foundation. She was an 8-year SEC commissioner.
Oh, wow.
She's in Hawaii, which
Whoa.
she's yeah, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah, she's fantastic. She was a 8-year commissioner for the SEC of Hawaii, and then was general counsel for Ethereum, and then we were lucky enough to have her join a few months ago. And me as a marketer, I talk to her like almost daily, because all the legal stipulation, there's just a lot of, it's craziness right now, especially in the U.S., and that's actually why we decided from a contribution standpoint not to allow any U.S., any China investment, actually.
No U.S. or China investment?
Yeah.
Oh, because of the SEC.
Because there was just a lot of uncertainty. So we made the decision that it would be better just to not raise any funds here.
So then even if somebody does want to raise funds that lives here, they can always use their account from...
No, you can't be like
live here,
you can't be a citizen. You can't be a citizen. You can't have a passport here. You can't reside here. You can't even if I were, let's say, a citizen of Australia and I was traveling here, you still can't make the contribution while you're on U.S. soil.
And the reason is because if they invest $5 million into the DAV Foundation, then the SEC, because then they get tokens.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of uncertainty right now around the whole token landscape, which really, because it moves at the speed of light. I mean, a day or a week when it comes to sort of everything happening on the blockchain and cryptocurrency, it's like a month in technology, right? It just I don't know why, but it happens extremely quickly. But so does and the regulators are expected to keep up with this. So from our standpoint, it was just the safest move to not associate ourselves with taking any contribution from the U.S. or China because of the uncertainty currently.
Hopefully that ends soon.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully we figure out, it's so funny seeing technology run like a racehorse and see the government like a turtle behind it. Try to figure out how to regulate
Well, yeah,
this.
just
What do you think, Rod?
Well,
I hear some.
the private sector is really pushing things forward. Frank Zappa said the politics are the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex. So it's easy to see.
The private sector does move things forward super fast, and the government tries to regulate behind it usually.
George Gilder? Is that what
Yeah.
He said the government gets in the way.
Yeah,
Bureaucracy does.
Yeah.
I believe that. I worked with 2 municipalities, one in my hometown and one in Franklin, New Hampshire. It was a collective conscious. They were all the same personality, just different faces. It was frightening. But that was the last time I worked for and supported any government entity.
They have a tough job. I mean, yeah, it's a tough, especially as we continue to advance and science and technology continues to compound on each other. In regards to where we're going to be and where we're going to go, it's a big undertaking.
And also the idea of regulation isn't all bad. And we talked to this with George Gilder, we've talked to this with a lot of people that have been on our show before, but that is the challenge. As science and technology run like a racehorse forward, the turtle has to figure out how to regulate along the way that doesn't impede the racehorse from running forward, but that also keeps the population safe.
Yeah.
Safety? There's no money in safety.
So, okay, how about we All right, let's flip our...
Sure.
Let's do it. All right, here we go.
Flip our timer.
Yeah, our 15-minute. Ron, can you give us the noise too?
Sure, I can.
Let's do it.
I wasn't ready. Okay, ready? Here comes the noise. So, shit.
It's on. There it is.
That's it?
That's the noise.
That's the 15-minute noise?
Yeah, caught me off guard.
Okay, so...
Fix your mic.
Yeah, I know. It's difficult to set up a lavalier mic on a T-shirt. I'll have to figure out how to do this better.
Yeah, well, I only work with
Do you guys,
professionals. So
do you guys
I'm a
edit
little
this or you go
out of
straight
my-
through?
We just go straight through. Yeah.
Sure. We celebrate mediocrity.
You're really doing it.
Yeah, the content's good, but the execution of it's we're amateurs.
We're working on it. Thanks to you guys for keeping us in check along the way. All right. Moving on. Okay. What is the most impactful application that this is going to have in the next couple of years? We've been talking about a lot of them that you're working on.
Keep picking industry. It's such a big, there's so many different applications, right? We're working on transparency, from energy to housing to funding. I recently met with, and I've been seeing around town a lot, the Vice Mayor of Berkeley, Ben Bartlett, great guy. He's working on a micro bond initiative over there to essentially have the individuals of the town to be able to fund, a fire truck initially, all based on the blockchain, things like that. So the applications are far and wide. I think if you even look at some lesser evolved, far along countries, you're able to have titles, right, where people wouldn't otherwise be able to say, this is my property, there's no title system in place. And now you're able to go ahead and put that in place. There's also been a big trend from U.S. citizens going to Puerto Rico. I got a buddy of mine who's starting some comedy podcast called like Crypto Rico or something like that. So yeah, it's just there's a ton of different use cases. From the transportation standpoint, I think it's going to have a tremendous impact, especially with everything we're working on. And there's also a lot of specific social impacts as well, outside of what we're doing also.
All right. How do we figure out how to work across the world, across these borders in our globalized world? How do we figure out how to work in that sense? Will China's blockchain and Russia's blockchain be accessible by United States companies?
It's interesting. I think what blockchain and cryptocurrency has done is it's actually allowed us to really feel what it may look like to be borderless.
Yeah.
It's sort of crazy, because now all of a sudden people that were never interested in what was happening in South Korea or Singapore or Russia now have to pay attention because it's going to directly impact maybe a certain investment or stake that they have in the cryptocurrency market. So it's super fascinating to see that happen. And see what happens if we're also able to sort of combine forces and work together around that. That's been really interesting to see.
I like how you say that the decentralization is actually...
Sorry. Coughing right into the mic. Killing your ears.
Well, decentralization is actually causing us to get more borderless. I like that. I do struggle with seeing how if China's already throttling connection to Facebook and Google, then how will we... That's already the internet. The internet's already a decentralized thing, but somehow they figured out how to centralize it.
Why are you always picking on China?
Well, I can't even think of another country that throttles connection to the internet, but I'm sure there's plenty of other ones. There was like the Egypt issue, and then that
in North Korea.
Twitter.
Yeah.
In North Korea, that's an easy one, North Korea. But if they figure out how to do that with the internet, how will they not? They'll figure out how to do it with the blockchain. You can just centralize a blockchain, not give access to other people. Like if China decided to have their own Communist Party blockchain, then there will be no way for another government to access it and engage with it.
I don't know. I think it might be a little different this time. There's a lot of capital involved, so I think that if certain countries were to just outright block things, people would get creative and find different ways.
Thank you for saying that.
But let's hope to find all of the unique, creative ways to collectively move forward as one. Let's see if we can do that.
Heavy ask.
That's a lot of what our show is about. Is trying to figure out how to ask these tough questions, so that way we can figure out how to move forward. All right. How about we ask, what do you think about cryptocurrency exacerbating wealth inequality?
What, so having a shift in essentially like old wealth versus new wealth?
Well, even right now, there's so many hidden billionaires on these different cryptocurrencies now that have just spawned in the last couple of years. Boom, these new billionaires. Now, meanwhile, like, you can see that overall wealth increase is order of magnitudes versus these bottom dwellers on the socioeconomic status are barely making another couple bucks an hour.
Yeah.
So what's going on? How do you think we're gonna end up moving and solving this wealth inequality?
There's actually some interesting. A buddy of mine is the CEO of a coin called Ubicoin.
Ubicoin?
Yeah, I believe it's Ubicoin. And essentially, like, what he's doing is he wants to think of like us. We're very privileged, right? We have all of these different asset vehicles and investment vehicles where we could do, mutual funds and this and that, and we can grow some sort of wealth that way. A lot of people in third world countries don't have access to that. So what he's developing is essentially a system that gives access to those people, to those investment vehicles who wouldn't otherwise have access to that. So I think, sure, you're always going to have people that raise to the top because they made early investments and things like that, but as a whole, and also comes back to the title thing. Now, because I own land and it's proven on the blockchain, I can maybe take out a loan and start a small business based off that. So I think the blockchain, outside of just like thinking about it from I put an X and I got Y and I got early and I got lucky or whatever it may be, I think it will enable, hopefully, more wealth to grow that way.
That's a good perspective. I like Joe's mind. He's very optimistic about what the technology can do.
Man. I try to be optimistic.
I do too. I'm also very realistic, but I do also agree that the optimism is so crucial. Like you said, you gave a bunch of really good examples about how people are leveraging the technology to help people that are in the lower socioeconomic statuses gain wealth. All right, how about a couple quick rapid fire questions? Do you think we're alone in the cosmos?
He's going deep right at me? No, of course not.
Why?
It's way too vast. There's way too many. It's just way too vast. There's way too many unknowns out there. We're blessed, and I think there's a higher being behind what happened here. But there's just too much out there for there not to be something else there.
What does that higher being look like to you or feel like to you?
I mean, whether it's God or energy or I sort of have a mix of. I have a mix of feelings, whether it's God, energy.
Some divinity helped empower the evolution on Earth.
I think there's something out there. What we want to label it as. There's a higher force at work, in my opinion.
Yeah, we talk a lot about what exists outside of the 3D reality.
No, we don't. We don't discuss nothing. We know nothing, and we don't talk about it.
Do you think we're in a computer simulation?
No.
Why?
I don't think we're in a computer simulation specifically. You've been watching a lot of, what is it, Black Mirror.
Oh, I have seen that, but I really like this question.
Of the computer simulation?
Yeah. You say no. Why?
I mean, when you say computer simulation, you think that we're all just, we're programs being run on this earth? We're like in some sort of game? Not that we're dreaming, or like it's a lucid dream or something like that. It's more, just elaborate a bit.
Well, it could be like a brain in a vat. It could be just that same higher force that you were just talking about before. That same higher force is just the programmer of the reality that you see. Just tweaking all the variables. different proximity to the star, different mass of the planet, different evolutionary timeline for the species. Maybe a species decided to drop nukes, decided not to drop nukes. What does that look like?
I don't think we're in a computer simulation. Whether we're influenced as human beings by other more advanced civilizations, let's say, that is unsaid. But I don't think per se that we are in a computer simulation.
Okay, and just to piggyback off that a little bit more is what does it look like to you? What does it feel like to have advanced civilizations manipulating our world? What would you say that would be like?
How long have we been on Earth for?
Like a couple million years as humans.
Humans, yeah.
Yeah, a couple million years, yeah.
And, it goes back to, things when the pyramids and the different, drawings and things like that. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question. I don't know that I have a specific answer for you. I'm okay with how things are now. I think that things can always improve. I think that there's a lot of good that needs to be done in the world still. A tremendous amount of good, right?
Hell yeah. That's what we're up to.
For sure. So that without question. But whether somebody or something is out in an external influence, I would hope that they're trying to influence in a positive manner.
Okay, and last question is, what do you think is the most beautiful thing in the world?
Love.
Tell us why.
It's a very pure emotion, so being able to feel the emotion of love is something that you can't describe with words or visuals. It has to be a feeling. So that's why emotions are extremely, extremely powerful.
Yes.
And I think love is probably one of the most powerful emotions.
Joe Lopardo.
Thank you, sir.
What a pleasure.
Pleasure.
This has been super fun. I really appreciate it. There's so much to still unpack and understand about blockchain and the potential of the technology across transportation, across every other aspect of securing moving goods and doing it in ways that are effective, efficient, digitally secure over time, decreasing the amount of third parties that take percentages along the way. We're moving into drones. We got autonomous vehicles already transiting people, transiting goods. You're right there. You're right there building out the protocol for the freight, for humans, for drones. This is really important stuff.
Yeah, man.
And that's why you have a 20 mil raised of your 38 that you're aiming to raise.
Yeah.
That's super impressive. Can't believe you're not taking funds from US or China. That is crazy stuff. We got to figure out the SEC, what's going on with that. It's a lot to figure out still. We learned a lot about mining as well, about what we're going to do moving forward, especially about like all the electricity that's being used to figure this out.
A lot.
Joe, it's such a pleasure. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you guys had a good time, please share the content with other people. Let's get these conversations rolling about crypto, blockchain, about transiting goods and what the underlying protocol is going to be. Let's share the content with other people. Like the content, comment below with your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. You get the opportunity to be featured on our Instagram now and our Twitter. We'll feature your comments. So go and give us a comment below. Also, subscribe. Press that subscribe button if you'd like to gently. If you'd like to smash, totally up to you. You get to pick, but subscribe.
Easy.
Easy press. Also, we're on Patreon. You already know that. It's so important for us to continue sustaining this. So help us with the studio, help us expand, help us get more creative people involved in the process of sharing this content across the world. Let's work our way up to a football stadium, work our way up to a creative warehouse. Ron Vargas, our producing partner, thank you so much. And we'll see you guys soon. Peace. Thank you.